Good afternoon, everyone. Today is 7 November, the year 2006. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in California. Part of our mission is to record and preserve the history of our country's military conflicts, especially World War II. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in those conflicts. Today, I'm here at the museum along with special guest Connie GERGELY, who will tell us the story of her father. Her father was Bob Campbell, who passed away a few years ago, and he was a Marine Corps photographer who took the photo of the first flag being lowered as the second flag was being raised on Iwo Jima. So we'll talk to her about that and a lot of other things. Connie, nice to have you here.
It's nice to be here.
Connie, spell your name for us, please.
The last name is Gergely.
Okay, and Connie is your first name, of course.
That is, yes.
And your father, your dad's, spell his name for us, please.
Yeah, his first name was Robert,
Mm-hmm.
and last name is Campbell, Campbell.
And when and where was he born?
He was born in Oakland in 1910 in September.
Oakland, California.
Yes, Oakland, California.
September 10th, 1910. Okay.
Yes.
And and his father, what was his father's name? Your grandfather.
You know, I hardly ever knew him, so I'll have to look that up because I'm trying to think.
Okay.
I'll have to look
Do you
that
know
up.
what he did? What kind of work he did or anything?
Not the father. I don't know
You
much
don't know
about
his
him because by
grandfather.
the time I was born.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or how he got to Oakland or to California, or where did his ancestors, your father on their father's side, where did they come from? you know?
I don't think anyone his own parents came from another country or anything. I think they were, mainly from that area.
From the so there are
Yeah.
several generations of living in
Like I
California.
say, by the time I was born,
Yeah.
they weren't even.
And
Wow.
your grandmother, his wife, do you remember her name?
Oh, my mother?
No, not. No, your grandmother. Your
Yeah.
your dad's mother.
Again, I wish that I had known to bring that. Again, I hardly remember
Yeah.
her at all either. Like I say, I was.
Right.
My older sisters would all know.
Yeah, sure. And your dad, do you know where he went to school in Oakland? To high school or anything?
I'm not sure what. See, I'd remember those names if I knew, but if I heard them, but I can't remember. Again,
Yeah.
it was way before my time,
Yeah. Okay.
and we haven't talked about it for probably 40 years.
And how did he get into the photography business?
Oh, he just it was just something that he enjoyed doing, and he just started it up, and he worked for a short time, I think at the in Oakland where he was, but then he always liked the San Francisco Chronicle, and so they hired him, and that's where he did most of his work.
Did he always do newspaper kind of work, or did he have a studio where he did photos for graduations, things like that?
No, he just worked for the newspaper. However, many times just on his own, he took pictures for people if they wanted that done.
I see. Yeah.
But as far as his employment, it was always with.
Did he have
newspaper.
a dark room, anything set up in your home?
Not in the house, but he certainly spent a lot of time in the Chronicle one. And
Right.
it was always fascinating because sometimes we children would go up and watch, and it was fascinating to watch the development of the film. It was just.
And your
loved it.
mother, what was her maiden name?
Her maiden name was Mara, M-A-R-R-A, Scotch-Irish. We're all Scotch-Irish.
And her first name was?
Her real name was Mary, but she was a real fan of Bing Crosby, and her nickname was Bing.
Really?
And a lot of people probably didn't even know her name was Mary.
And was she theatrical? I know that you girls have good singing voices and stuff like that. Did she like to sing and stuff?
Well, as a mother, we didn't hear her sing all that much. She just loved for us to do it. I think she had dancing lessons and stuff when she was young, and we all had that.
And where did she grow up, in Oakland?
In Oakland, yes.
Okay. And did her ancestors come from Ireland, or
Yes,
did they?
yes, her mom and dad, yes.
Oh, her mom and dad came from Ireland.
Yeah.
Oh. Do you know where in Ireland they came from?
Gosh, if I were looking at a map, it's been a long time since I've thought about it. But oh darn, this is spurring me on. When I get home,
well,
I'm going to.
Sure, look that.
It's been a long time since but they were very Irish.
Yeah. And they came. Did they come straight to Oakland, or did they live elsewhere in the United States?
As far as I know, my only history of them was Oakland. That they may have come to New Jersey, because I think some relatives went to New Jersey first and then came out to California. And
you remember the street you lived on in Oakland?
Yes, Fruitvale Avenue.
Fruitvale Avenue.
Fruitvale Avenue.
Okay, and so okay, and you have. I know before he went into World War II, you were telling me that he had 4 children, including you. So tell me the names of you 4 girls.
Yeah, well, the fancy names are like my oldest sister is Marilyn, but she was always Mickey. And the second sister is Barbara, and she was always Bobby. And the third one was Patsy, not Patricia, but Patsy. And then I was Connie. I was not Constance. I was just Connie.
Okay.
And then after me, another daughter was born, Jodine, called Jody. And finally, the last child was a boy, named after my father, Robert Russell.
Okay. And where do all your siblings live?
Let's see. Everyone is in. Let's see. Everyone is in California, and my one sister, my oldest sister, lives in the desert here. She lives in Cathedral City. And then I have one that lives in Marin County, and unfortunately one of my sisters is deceased. Patsy died. She had lived in San Jose, and my other sister, my younger sister Jody, lives in Fremont in the East Bay, and my brother also passed away. He had lived in San Francisco.
And your mother, she's passed away also?
Yeah.
Was that about the same time your father did?
No,
or?
she lived many years after him. Yes.
And did she remarry or anything?
No. She always said he was the best. She couldn't.
And did she always live in Oakland?
Well, no. We moved as a family when I was just before I was in kindergarten. We moved as a family to Millbrae, California, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go back to your dad then. He was working. How long had he been working at the San Francisco Chronicle before he went into the service? Do you know?
Gosh.
I know
I don't know.
Had to be at least a couple years, because I know I have some photographs in Life magazine, a couple that he did back late 30s, early 40s.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of find out, because I believe he even worked for the Oakland Tribune before he worked for the Chronicle, and I've never memorized when he started the Chronicle. All I ever knew about, was from the time I paid attention, as a little girl. I never went to another place where he worked, just the Chronicle, so that was the main place that he worked, and of course that's where Joe Rosenthal worked also.
Right.
And they shared a dark room.
And just to clarify, Joe Rosenthal was the photographer who took the photograph at almost within seconds of the photograph your father did,
Yes.
from a different angle, the different side of, and that's the one that most people know, the
Right.
raising of the second flag.
Right.
So tell us about how your dad ended up in the Marine Corps during World War II.
Well, he was drafted into, I believe, the Army.
Right.
And my mother always tells the story, so I will tell you in this way. When he was drafted, and then he decided if he had to go, he wanted to be a Marine, so he enlisted in the Marine Corps. And when she drove him when he had to go off to the Marines, and on the way back, after she had let him off, the radio announced, "We're still not drafting married men with children." And she got so irate, what she said, because she had 4 children, and my father was drafted. But as it turned out, it ended up, thank heavens, to be a very positive experience for him.
And you were born what year?
1943.
43. Okay, so you really don't remember too much of the war years.
No, I was born, but I was pretty young.
What people were saying.
Pretty young.
I assume that he was overseas for a good period of time. Was
Yes,
he not?
yeah.
The Marines in the Pacific.
Yeah.
And we know that he was on Iwo Jima. Do you know if any place else that he might have been?
I'm not acquainted with that. I don't know if he sailed just directly to Iwo Jima. It may be.
Yeah.
All the pictures that I have seen have been of those.
It seems as though, again, that we both seen the movie Flags of Our Fathers
Yes.
and read the book, that they were forming this 5th Marine Division on Camp Tarawa in the Hawaiian Islands, and I think it was on the Big Island, I believe. And he would have been a part of that.
Yeah, that sounds a little familiar.
Excuse me?
Sounds a little familiar.
Yeah, and then they all went. They were formed to Iwo, and he was with the first. We were just talking to Harry Hutzel and Les Carlisle, 2 Marines who were on Iwo Jima at the same time your dad was, and they both saw the flag. One was on top of Mount Suribachi, right close to your dad, and he said that he was in the 1st Marine Division, and I forget which regiment, but so we've got that information. That he was. So I'm sure that's how that came to pass for him to be there. When he came home, did he talk much about it, or do you remember him talking about it?
I was so young. I really don't, but I have a feeling he might not have talked about it as much to us.
I'm sure he had, like all these guys do. It was a horrific time, and I mean, this was a highlight but most of the time, seeing friends being killed and trying to stay alive yourself, it had to be a traumatic thing, and probably not something you want to just talk about.
I do remember, though, as far as the photograph that he took that had both flags, he was just very creative, and when he knew that once the first flag went up, and he knew that the Marines down below said that they had a better flag, he just thought that it would be a very creative photograph, so he purposely got himself ready so that he could get one down while the other was going up.
Just as a little background here, Iwo Jima was let's go over to the island here. And we'll talk about this a little bit. Let me see if I can get a second. Where's not quite so much. No, it's not too bad. The reason that they needed to take it was because it was about halfway between Saipan and Tokyo, and our B-29s were flying from Saipan to Tokyo, dropping their bombs, and then had to fly all the way back. And our fighters could not go that far with them, so they went unescorted, and they usually got shot up real bad. And a lot of times they couldn't make it back to Saipan, so they would go down in the ocean, and the Pacific is a really big ocean, and it would be difficult to find, so most often the crewmen would not survive when they went down. Plus the Japanese had airstrips on this island where they would go up and attack them as well. So it was important to take this island to get the airstrips, so then we could put fighters on here. The fighters from here could go all the way to Japan and back with our B-29s. Our B-29s didn't normally land here. They would go back to Saipan. The other thing is, if they were come back and they were damaged, a lot of times they would come and they could land here and be fixed up, and then get to Saipan. So it saved. I think the figure was it like 20, we lost like 22,000 killed, I think, or something on, well, but many more than that of airmen were saved throughout the rest of the war. So that was the thing. Well, the Japanese were really dug in here. They knew the strategic importance of this, and they had pillboxes, machine guns. They had even brought heavy, big guns from Singapore, from the British, and installed around here. A lot of them were right up on this. This is, you can see this in this relief here. That's Mount Suribachi. It's right here. The Marines basically landed all along this area here on the first day, and the idea was one group, and that's Les Carlisle's group, the 4th Marines, were to go down here and take these airfields. 1st Marines were to cut across here to cut off this area of the island from the rest of the island, and then take Mount Suribachi. When they went, and they, like they always did, they bombed and shelled the island for quite a while, but didn't do much good because Japanese were all underground pretty much, and they were all really dug in. So when they came in, the Japanese this time did not fire at them the first wave when they're coming along the beach, unlike at Tarawa and places like that. So the first wave got in, they got here. Now this is it's like ash, like black ash. It's kind of hard to run in. It's just kind of deep. So anyway, so they got in here, and when the 2nd and 3rd waves came in, then they started opening up so now they got Marines on the beach here, as well as ones out in here. And so they have a lot more targets. And so, especially firing down from Suribachi. So the first day or two, we really couldn't do much, couldn't move much. Did finally get across here. And then there was a Marine squad of 4 guys, a rifle squad, that somehow or another they went up to the top. And one of the guys is Ted White, who lives here locally in the desert, and that we've interviewed. And so they're up there, and they see that, it really wasn't, there were guns all around it and on it stuff, but up on top there wasn't much going on. And they said, we're up here, you guys can probably, get a squad up here, get some guys up. So they sent some guys up, and sure enough they did. And when they were on their way up, a lieutenant or somebody said, he had a flag, he said, here, take this, you get up there, put it up. So they did. They put this first flag up, and a guy named Lowry, who was a Marine photographer, was up there with him, and he took a picture of that first one up. Then by this time they were getting more reinforcements up there, and he was coming back down. And about this time, Joe Rosenthal was going up, and I'm thinking that your dad may have been with Rose. I don't know if he went up with Rosenthal or if he was already up there with Lowry. Not quite sure when your dad went up, but anyway, they went up, and by this time, the higher ups decided, and every Marine that I've talked to who was there and saw the flag. Both these guys that we talked today said it just gave a shot in the arm to everybody. That to see, because we had lost so many guys, and it was just it was so horrible, and to see our flag up there was really something. And so the higher ups said, well, it'd be nice to we should have a larger flag for one thing. And so they took up this larger flag. And so when they went up, they were taking the first flag down and putting the second one up. And well, you can tell us what your dad did.
Well, he just thought he was very creative, and just knowing him beyond all this, he thought that it would be a very creative shot to get the first flag coming down as the better shaped flag was going up.
Right.
He just thought that would make a very, very beautiful shot.
Yeah.
And he was right.
It was, yeah. And again, he was on, again, if you kind of look, I'm not quite sure exactly where up on this crater that it was. Let's say maybe it was here. Anyway, and Rosenthal took it from this side, and your dad was over on the other side, so he was taken from a different angle. Like you say, you can kind of see the faces of the guys.
Yeah.
And Rosenthal's picture, Rosenthal took his probably, within just seconds of the time Bob Campbell did. And that's the one that is in Washington D.C. and it's the one that's and that's the one that energized everybody back in the United States and became such a famous flagger. But they both took them at the same time.
And they were both not posed. You know, so many people thought because Joe Rosenthal's was such a beautiful shot, but it was.
It apparently again, this movie that we've seen, they portrayed, and I think it most likely right, was that somebody said, well, they didn't realize early on they didn't realize I guess back in the States, because they had this war bond drive and they had three. The guys that raised that second flag, there were 6 of them. 3 of them didn't survive. They didn't get off the island. They were killed. The 3 that did get off were Bradley, Navy Corpsman, Gagnon, and Ira Hayes, the Indian boy. So when those got back, said, well, that's we raised that second flag, and then they said, well, you mean it was the first flag? And they said, yeah. He said, and so they thought that, oh well, they just posed that second one, but it wasn't like that, and they explained that to them. But there was some people thought that that it wasn't that it wasn't like it was, but and now tell us about that first. Your dad came home probably in '45, I would think, after the war. And was that the first Christmas that you showed me had shown me that Christmas card?
No, I can't be sure. I'll have to ask my sisters if it was the first. Well, it must have been. It was certainly the first.
It looks like you're about 2 years old, which I guess that you would be.
It must have been the first one that he took, depending on when he got home. The first Christmas that he was home to do that, because he wouldn't have done it.
But
after that.
At Christmas time what did he used to do? He would make Christmas.
There was always a theme based on something that had been going on whether it was a family thing or whatever. There was always a theme connected with the cards. It was wonderful. And in fact, like when Elvis Presley was, I think my brother was born by that time, and he kind of was an imitator of Elvis or something. And just I would love to show you these cards sometime. They're just wonderful.
Okay, I'm gonna grab that one. Well, first of all, this will be a good thing. I'm gonna put this in front. This before we do that. This is. Let's do this. Get back here a little bit. This is from. It's a San Francisco.
Yeah, it's San Francisco Chronicle.
Recently,
because of the movie.
Because of the Flag of Our Fathers now, and so in here they've got both these pictures, one kind of superimposed on the other. The top one is the one that Joe Rosenthal took, and you can see the backs of these guys, and the bottom one is the one that Bob Campbell, her father, took. You can see it's a little from a in there. You can see one coming down and the other one going up. And let's go up here, where you can see. It. So there was like you say, a very creative shot.
Yes. Yeah. And even though it's not posed, there's something artistic about when you move that. Because the main thing he wanted was to get both, so he had to wait until at least both of them were. Right,
and there is movie footage of this also. There was a. I think with Rosenthal, there was a guy who was the movie camera, and but I understand that he was killed. Probably, I'm not sure it was on Iwo Jima or not. It probably was. So, yeah, I want to go get that little Christmas card. Let me see.
Oh, okay.
Do too if you wanted to. Let's just give it a picture. Oh, here it is. Now this is the book, Flags of Our Fathers, that depicts a lot about what we've been talking about here. And in this book, again, it shows the picture that her father took. It's in there. And then there's the Rosenthal picture. And then the first one here is the one that Laurie took. Well, that's the first flag being up there. Okay. Okay, here's this Christmas card, and I'm going to put it on here.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, we always had a theme. My father always wanted to have a theme with Christmas cards, and this was when the first Christmas after he had come home from the war, and so he thought he had photographed the flag raising, so now he was going to photograph the tree raising with his children. And so that's exactly what it is.
It's really clever. It looks
And,
kind
yeah.
of like the flag raising in the old gym of using Christmas tree. And there's Mickey, Bobby, Connie, and Patsy.
Mm-hmm.
They sound like Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah,
kids.
well, it's really Marilyn, Barbara, Patsy, and Connie.
I know, and you're the littlest there,
Yeah.
looking straight
And
back at
after
us.
me, 2 more were born.
Yes.
But they weren't there then.
That's great.
Yeah.
So your dad comes back and goes back to work for the Chronicle, does he?
Mhm.
And Joe Rosenthal does too?
Yes. Yes.
And you were telling me...
In fact, I'm not sure. I'll have to ask my sister. It might be that they didn't, because he
before
had worked for another paper
Yeah.
also. So I have to.
Rosenthal might
yeah.
not have worked
Well, but
before the war, but he certainly after.
yeah, but from all the time when I was
Yeah.
growing up, when we lived because we had moved to Millbrae, he was always at the Chronicle and Joe Rosenthal, and he shared. The,
So you knew
room.
Joe? I mean, you had
Very
met him and
much,
things?
yes, very much. We knew his wife and his children, and I don't know if I mentioned already, my father was made godfather to one of his children.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we knew them very
did,
well.
Did you go down to the newspaper match when you were doing it?
We did, yeah.
Where was it? Where
so
was
we
it?
lived in Millbrae, so it was a little bit of a trip, but we went there quite a bit.
Where
and,
in San Francisco is it?
On Mission, 5th and Mission.
So where did you? Okay, Millbrae. Where did you go to grade school, you kids and stuff?
Well, there were we all kind of did different things, but most of us went to Taylor Intermediate School, and then the high school that I went to was not built until I was there. So my older sisters went. Actually, my oldest sister went to Burlingame High School because they didn't have any high schools in Millbrae at that time, and then the rest of them went to Cappuccino High School, which was in Millbrae, and then I went to Mills High School, which was brand new, and my younger brother and sister too.
Was your mom and dad, were they very religious?
Yeah, well, yeah, not overly, but we went to mass every Sunday, and we were all baptized. And
What parish did you go to?
St. Teresa Church.
St. Teresa.
No, not St. Teresa. I have to say St. Dunstan's. St. Teresa is what I'm going to have to do now. St. Dunstan's Church in Millbrae.
Your father, was he still doing freelance stuff? Probably, I suppose, for besides working at the paper.
Most of the time, he just worked at the paper because that was a pretty full-time thing.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing he would do was if somebody really close to us needed a picture taken of an anniversary party or a birthday party, that kind of thing. Family type things.
Do you have a lot of cameras around the house?
Oh, I don't know if there are a lot, because usually he liked maybe 2 at the two at the best, and that's what he used. And in those days too, they didn't have a lot of the things that they have nowadays, but he had really big ones, really good, really good.
And he passed away fairly young, as I understand.
Yeah.
And had he been sick for a while, or what?
Well, he had a heart attack, and he had had a minor heart attack and had spent some time in the hospital. And then when he came home, he lived for a while. But one morning, it happened just before he got out of bed, and my little brother, he was little at the time, most of us were out. My brother, I think, was the only one still at home, and my younger sister also was, and so he came in and tried to resuscitate him, and it didn't work. It was just really.
Had he had, other than his photography, did he have other hobbies? Did he like to do other things? Play golf or anything
Well,
like that?
He didn't do a lot of those kinds of things. He and my mom liked to dance, so they were in folk dancing places and things like that, and so that kind of thing. Yeah. And just having 6 children takes a lot of your time following, because they were very, very, both of them were very, very good about that. And his being such a wonderful photographer, we have wonderful remnants of our childhoods, and it's really a blessing.
And so he would have how many grandchildren now?
Oh my golly. Let's see, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, probably about 15 at least.
Yeah. Any great grandchildren, you know?
Well, I don't think any of the greats were born when.
No, I mean now. I mean.
Now, yeah, there are a couple of my older sisters.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually, my daughter has.
And you, when did you come here to Palm Springs?
I have been here. Let's see. This is my. I think. Let's see. We just had our. Oh yeah, I've been here. Gosh, I've been here 32 years.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I came down here to visit my sister, and she thought I might enjoy meeting an attorney that she thought I would like very much. So she didn't even have to fix it up. We went to a nightclub where Phil Moody and Grace Moody were playing, and he was there, and he just came over and introduced himself, and we even sang together the night we met. The next day he asked me out to lunch, and 6 months later we were married.
And his name?
Alfred Gergely.
And how many children do you have?
Well, I had 3, and luckily.
And what are their names?
Yeah, Jennifer and Jody, who's really Joseph David, and Jeffrey, and then Al and I had one of our own, Stephen John.
And where do the kids all live?
Jennifer and her family live in La Quinta, and my son Jody just got married, and he's living at one of the beach communities in LA area. And Jeff lives in New York with his wife, and Stephen is becoming a paralegal. He's going to paralegal work now.
Yes.
And he lives in Los Angeles. I think really Studio City or one of those.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So Jennifer's the only one that's real close. So.
And you, what do you do these days?
I'm a teacher of English at Palm Springs High School. This is my 12th year.
How big is your class?
Well,
Your
I
classes
have
usually?
5 classes, and it's over 190 students this year. At the moment, I'm on a break for.
Right. But how many are in a class at a time usually?
Well, it'd be nice if there were only 35, but once in a while there'll be 38 and 40.
Right.
So it's
it
a lot.
challenging,
It is,
doesn't it?
especially when you in English, when you sign essays and things like that. It's quite a. But it's a good. It's a really very good school. Yeah.
And how much longer do you think you want to work?
Well, I was thinking of making sure that I work at least 15 years just for a better retirement, and so I'll probably do that. Yeah.
And do you go to St. Teresa's? I
Yeah,
understand.
St. Teresa's. Yeah.
And you're pretty involved with.
Yeah, my husband and I are
ministries?
readers. Yeah, we're readers at Mass. I was a theater major in college. So.
Speaking of that, tell us about this.
Oh, I had to put my glasses on.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, this is.
What is this? Tell us about it.
Yes,
first
this
of all.
is the Iwo Jima song for the Marines. It actually doesn't have to just be the Marines, but this was a song that we liked because it was about my father, really. So I'll sing it for you without accompaniment. When the Yanks raised the stars and stripes on Iwo Jima Isle, through their blood and tears they won true. Bless the heart of each Yankee there on Iwo Jima Isle, resting 'neath a blanket of blue. High on the hills of Suribachi, Flies Old Glory, and she always will. When the Yanks raised the stars and stripes on Iwo Jima Isle, there were tears in their eyes, though they smiled. It's a good song, I love that. My sisters and I used to sing that, you know, together after Dad came home. We just loved it, yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Well, thank you for that. I wish that your father was here for me to personally thank him for his service to our country.
Yes.
I want to thank you for coming in and sharing with us.
Thank you. This has been a wonderful experience, just being able to relive all this again. And especially that he's, I'd love for him to be here, but his not being here, this gives me a chance to really pay attention to him. It's wonderful. It's really wonderful.
Okay,
This is fabulous. I love it.
Isn't it?
That map is terrific.